Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ruth, the 3rd chapter. And as we left off in the 2nd chapter with Ruth gaining favor in the sight of Boaz, and him allowing her to glean and to gather within his field, and basically instructing his workers to not to bother her when she would do that. So this is Ruth chapter 3, verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And that rest would be to help you, be settled, i.e. find somebody that would remarry, that you can get remarried to, and you can have somebody that can take care of you, and then you'll be good. And now, is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. So Naomi is now basically trying to set up Ruth with Boaz, considering he was next of kin, and lawfully it would be okay. So she basically says, he is our next of kin, our next of kin, the man whose maidens you were serving along with. And tonight, as it says, he winnoweth barley in the threshing floor. Now, the word winnoweth it's basically like a separating of, once again, the chaff from the grain. So let's look up here, winnowing. Oh, yeah, this is a good example here. All right, so you could use a basket for it. You can use different means, but as you can see here, by launching up what was in the basket into the air, the wind blows the husk, the chaff, whatever you want to call it, and then the valuable part falls back into the basket, and you just keep tossing it up like that to get you what you want at the end. It's like when you eat pistachios, right? You crack open the shell. You don't eat the shell, but you want the actual part in the middle of it. Verse 3. Wash thyself therefore, and and anoint thee, and put thy garment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man. So go there to where he is, but don't let him see you until he have done eating and drinking. So until he's feeling nice, right? He's done. He's the day, the day is pretty much over, and they're done eating and drinking. That's when you go. And it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he lieth. So keep an eye on him and spot where he goes to lay down. And thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay thee down. Now, what this was a custom in that time, which by uncovering his feet, because, in sleeping, they would sleep in their robe or their garment, and they would be able to, use it to also cover their feet so it doesn't get cold. Now, when Naomi was instructing Ruth to do in going to lay down at his feet and uncovering his feet, as it says, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do, was a formal way of basically saying, when you were to uncover his feet, the coldness would wake him up. And if he was to cover you, right, along with his whatever it is, his mantle, his garment, whatever the case was, that would symbolize or signify him taking you or accepting you under his house or wing or authority or whatever it is. And so this is something that they understood at the time. Verse 5, and she said unto her, all that thou sayest unto me, I will do. And she went down onto the floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid her down. And it came, and this was like, in a literal sense, if his feet was covered with, maybe his outer garment, she would lift that part up so that his feet would be uncovered. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself. Now, the afraid here doesn't mean that he was like scared, but like he woke up. He like panic woke, you could say. Maybe the cold was getting to his feet too much. And behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. See? So in spreading that skirt, which is like the end of his garment over her, it would signify him accepting the responsibility to do the part of the near kinsman. And that law says if you have, say, a man that has a wife, he ends up dying before he's able to have a child with that wife. She's a widow, but the next of kin basically would have to take her as a wife and, lay with her, and then she would bear a child so that that child could carry on the line of the deceased, ex-husband. So that's, as the scriptures say, it would raise up seed onto that line or that lineage. So that's why she mentioned this here, for he is a near kinsman. So for him to basically take on that role. And real quick, I'm going to get a precept on this. This is Ezekiel 16:8. It says, Now when I pass by thee, and I believe this is the Lord speaking about Israel, but metaphorically, right, where Israel is likened onto a woman, and the Lord is likened onto the one who took her in to be his. It says, Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord Yahweh, and thou becamest mine. So in the carnal sense, that covenant would be that marriage. Here in Ezekiel, it's like a spiritual marriage, right? With us being the Lord's people and him being our God. So coming back to Ruth chapter 3, verse 10. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord Yahweh, my daughter, for thou hast shewed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning. So you showed kindness, right, basically onto my house by how you dealt with Naomi and how you dealt with her sons and so on, or her son. But now you've even showed more kindness here in the sense of like not just generosity, but also virtue. Okay. Inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether rich or poor. So you came to me, right? Rather than going to chase like some younger man or, something of that sort, just to follow your desire. And now, my daughter, fear not. So Boaz was older than her, clearly. I will do thee all that thou requirest. So he's basically saying, like, I don't have a problem with, with fulfilling this role. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. So he's basically saying, like, I have no problem doing this, right, and taking you as to be my wife and to redeem, you and so on and so forth. However, and I am your near kinsman, but there is one that is closer than I am, and therefore they would have to have the right first before me. I can't just go and claim you in this sense. They would have to basically get the option first, and if they couldn't do it, then it would be passed on to me. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee. So you just stay here tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to talk to him. And if he's willing to basically, play that role, then let him do it. Right. But if not, then I will do it. As the Lord Yahweh liveth, lie down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could know another, meaning early enough to where it was still, kind of dark, so you couldn't really discern who was who. And he said, let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. So to avoid anybody getting any suspicions of like, yo, there was a chick over here that snuck in here with Boaz last night. And, to avoid any of that, that's why she rose up so early before anybody could tell who was who, and left. Also, he said, bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her. And she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, who art thou, my daughter? Now, Naomi saying this wasn't like necessarily like, who are you? But more so like, tell me what happened. How did it go? And she told her all that the man had done to her, Boaz that is. And she said, these 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, go not empty unto thy mother-in-law. Then she said, this is Naomi's response, sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. So, you know what, for now, you just wait and be patient, and let's see how it goes. For the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. So Boaz, that is, isn't going to rest until he is basically he sees to the end of this matter. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ruth, the 3rd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.